Hey, what's up, guys? So, Peira is coming out very soon, and I wanted to do a quick video just kind of talking about how I think she's going to affect the meta. I 100% like, if you don't have her, I think she's worth pulling. If you're into PvP or you plan to be in PvP, I highly recommend you summon her. I just want to say that right out the gate. I think she might even be a decent unit and like some Abyss content as well, and depending on her morale, can be useful in raid. I mean, she does provide mitigation, being a thief, which is something that's not in the game yet, and generally when something new is introduced in the game, usually it's good. Sometimes it's not, but usually it's pretty good to get your hands on something that's kind of new, right? A perfect example would be like Lilius here is the first unit to give vigor to your entire team. She's good, right? I mean, that's kind of obvious. It's not really the same thing, but you know, you kind of get what I'm getting at. And I wanted to kind of talk about how I think she's going to affect the meta and kind of give some build insight. She's a fast opener unit. Obviously, you're going to want to build her fast. But the build that I'm kind of looking at, I honestly don't think she's going to need a gigantic amount of effectiveness. And the reason I say this is because I honestly don't think Peira is going to be used that much in cleave. If we bring over this, right? So I'll just kind of, it's going to be a little scuff for a second. So we have her base stats here. You see she's fast. She's got an effectiveness imprint. So if you're going to whale, this is a good unit to whale for that imprint. Looking at the skills we have here, restricting is good. Unable to be buffed is good. This really stops like a lot of units that are in cleave, right? Units that get pushed up, like Ida, for example. Charles pushing up units with CR. Like a lot of cleave is usually, you know, Politis, there's a lot of synergy between units that cause them to kind of push each other up to continue cleaving, right? There's a lot of push-up mechanics involved. You could do more of a single target cleave with a bunch of fast units. That is a possible way of cleave. Like you just pick a bunch of fast units and cleave that way. She's not really a counter to that, for example. So like the restrict stops units from getting pushed up. The unbuffable stops units from getting attacked, right? And then it gives her an extra turn, which is good. This can be used in cleave, yes, but there's a big issue with this, right? She is an ice unit. She is very fast, but using this unit in cleave, literally like Violet is a force ban against her, pretty much, unless you're cleaving with some kind of fire unit. Like I'm not saying she's unusable in cleave. I just don't think she's going to be as common. I think Ran is better in cleave than she is. And you're going to be using Ran more often than her in cleave. Ran is just beyond insane, right? She does grant your team attack buff, which is nice. This prevents, you know, it's more of an anti-cleave ability than a cleave, right? Because typically, like, people draft Politis in their cleave, right? So, taking that into consideration, maybe this can enable cleavers to not have Politis on their team. They use her, but then again, you know, it's like trading one evil for another. Then you got to deal with Violet. Moving on to her skill 3, I believe, right? This is a non-attack ability. That gives her the attack buff and basically turns her into an Arius holder. A strong Arius holder. It's 30%. And gives her, I think it's like it's damn near like it's 11k shield, I think, which is pretty big, right? In a cleave scenario, it does provide protection for your team, which is pretty good. So you can more likely survive like rim counters, the Politis extra attacks, stuff like that. Like she'll provide mitigation for your team. So it is usable in cleave in that sense. But I think in anti-cleave, it acts as a second mitigation unit, right? So you can have 2 mitigations on your anti-cleave and one that also acts as a speed contester. And I'll show you why I think this is really strong, because I'm going to show you a couple of my match histories in a second where like how I'm doing anti-cleave and show you how this actually fits into anti-cleave in the way I'm using it. Even better than what I'm already doing now to win in Legend. So taking a look at that, does give you attack buff. This could also be very useful in anti-cleave in the fact that like if you do go first, you can give like your Rim an attack buff. So when she does counter, she demolishes stuff. You can give her SSB an attack buff. But yeah, basically if she takes a turn before cleave does, you kind of just win. You disable their team really, really hard, right? And then going back, like people are thinking she's more, she can counter Emma Lilius as well. She is faster than her. I do believe giving your opponent's team unbuffable, they cannot get vigor. I'm pretty sure that is the case, actually. So she is kind of a counter to Emma Lilius because she is faster. So I do think she will be drafted into Emma Lilius in the sense of, like, I'm going to outspeed your Emma Lilius, which means people are probably more comfortable with letting Emma Lilius through instead of making her a permaban, because this unit actually punishes her pretty well. Basically turns Lilius just into like ML Lilius into a regular Lilius. She will still give your team attack down, but if you follow up with a cleanser or whatever, you're fine, right? It literally just turns Lilius into a dual attack bot. She can still provoke, whatever, it's not a big deal, but the biggest thing about Lilius, Lilius, Conqueror Lilius's kit is her S3, right? This makes that not able to happen. I think that's where this unit came from. They probably saw how oppressive Lilius was, and this is like their, solution. And I do think she is a good answer to Lilius as well. But then again, that turns her into more, that leans her more towards anti-cleave than cleave, right? Being a counter to one of the prominent aggro cleave units in the game. Probably the best cleave aggro unit in the game. She directly counters that with unbuffable and her base speed. So that's kind of what I was getting at here, right? The stun is just, icing on the cake. If a cleave team is surviving for a little bit, they're struggling taking down your defense. If you can zip forward and stun something, it keeps you alive a little bit longer, etc. In a cleave situation, most things are going to be dead before you have the chance to use stuns because you're going to be one-shotting everything with BBK or something like that. I will say she kind of shifts Flan a little bit out of the meta. I think Flan will still be usable, but like if we notice here, I'm going to bring my game back up. Kind of said what I needed to say about her skills. But my Flan, I've gimped. I don't use her. I had her on some extra speed gear, and I had her in like the 280s. Flan is slow as shit, right? And the way Flan is used now is with a speed imprint. Because ML Lilia speed contests her, pretty much any high base speed unit speed contests are really easy, even when they have premium speed gear, right? So, like Flan, I think we'll go to the journal and check her base speed. But yeah, mine's like 277 right now. And the gear isn't that fast, like 15 chest, right? 8, and then I know a lot of people are probably looking at this and be like, oh my god, I can't even go half this fast or whatever. But like in Legend, this isn't gonna cut it. I would need like 2 imprints with this to reliably outspeed, decent units, and 297 isn't even that fast. For example, like 297, that's nothing, right? So my Flan is basically unusable at the level I'm playing at with this speed. And even my Ran is like 305 is decent, right? But this is the power of a high base speed unit. Like you can zoom, right? So I can go to 312 with my fastest speed gear, okay? And this is 20, 21, 21, 22, 22, right? And this brings me to 312. There's people out there that have units at 320. Flan is not going to be usable against these units. She's pretty much out of RNG range even. So I think Flan is going to be dead. There's going to be too many fast units to speed contest Flan. If Peira takes the turn before Flan literally can't even do anything. She might as well not be there because she's like, there's restricted unbuffable, right? So this ability literally does nothing. And then same thing with Lilius. Right? Okay, my Lilius is pretty fast too, but she's got a 121 base speed. She's easily going to be outsped by Peira. The Peira I'm going to make is like 307, and it's not even on my best speed gear. 307 is kind of still in RNG range, but it's kind of on the lower end of the RNG range, but I can outspeed a 307 unit with a 294. It's not likely, but it can happen. But yeah, she disables this. Why is this not maxed? Am I tripping? Oh, because I don't have any of these. This is for Aquarius too, isn't it? Dude, Amir is about to come out and I have none of these. Oh, that's not good. I need to start farming. Crap. But yeah, so let's go to the journal real quick and then just kind of take a look at Flan. 115. Yeah, that ain't going to cut it. It's not going to cut it at all. So I think Flan's going to be less usable. But I also think Peira, she's not going to do as much for cleave. I think she's going to be usable in cleave. She enables Ida, but like one of the big issues with that is still this guy, right? The fact that she's a blue unit is kind of an issue. And since she attacks, and it's not like Cerise at least has neutral element on her S3, right? So I think Cerise is actually going to still be better in cleave. Like if you're going to be using like Caesarea with Cerise, for example, unless you can pick it in a scenario where there's no violet. So like if you're in a situation where you can last pick or last 2 picks, and that's where you slam your Peira and your cleave, and they last pick violet and you can ban it, or you have another answer to Violet on your team, like Milim or Zahak or Caesarea herself, but that's not very reliable because you can't reliably bomb him. You get 15%, etc. Sometimes you just lose. So, yeah. I do have like kind of my build in mind. Like I was saying earlier, I don't think effectiveness is 100% needed. She's 128, right? So I'll just do it on ACID. My ACID is decently fast as well, but I'm probably gonna take this helmet. I don't think she needs super high effectiveness, but I kind of had her gear laid out already for what I was gonna do. I think I was gonna take my Lilius boots. Why are these effectiveness? I think I was gonna take my Lilius's boots. No, I wasn't. I was gonna take Kisei's boots because she doesn't need the bulk as much as Peira does, because Peira is a mitigation unit. I want that as much health as I can get on her, so I would take these. I would probably give these to my Kisei instead. And then ring. I was thinking about doing 2 crit pieces I got here for all the HP she needs, since she needs HP to absorb damage. I was thinking about just giving her this sword, but honestly, I might be able to just slow my Lilius down. I just need to craft more weapons, really. So I could give her this, for example, and then give this to Lilius. So my Lilius would be 291 instead of 294, which I don't think is that big of a deal. I would give her this, but I think the damage stats are too valuable. I don't want to take it off Ran, so do that. And then substat speed here, I'd probably give her my Trozit's chest and Behold 304, right? And the reason I was looking at 307 was because this, but 306, basically the same thing, right? But I think something like this, that gives me a 305 unit and a 304 with 2 units in the 290s. And I'm not even that fast, guys, compared to a lot of these guys in Legend. Like, these are because all these units have really high base speeds. Notice she only has 52 effectiveness. When drafting her into anti-cleave, most units aren't going to have effect resistance, right? Some units will, like BBK, for example, but I can make up for this with imprints and her artifact. Probably just run like Alabastron, gives you 35 free effectiveness, gives her a speed buff at the end of the turn, which helps her cycle into that next stun. She's got really high speed. You could do that, or you can run, like if you run her an anti-cleave, you can use Sword of Winter's Shadow to remove souls from your opponent, but I think you're already disabling them enough. But this could work because you could prevent them from soul burning out to use an ability from the debuffs. But I don't think it's going to matter that much. I think this plus Alabastron, maybe plus an Imprint or 2 or 3, she's over 100. She easily debuffs like these BBKs that are building 100 ER and some other units that are building like 100 ER. You really just need like 100 on these really fast units to guarantee debuff some of these units that get spillover from imprints and etc. in standard drafts. And yeah, so I think this is how... This is my take on her. I think she's a good unit. I think she's really good, and I can't wait to start using her. I did say I would go look into drafts real quick of some recent games and show you how I think she will be drafted, because I do fight cleave a lot, okay? I am pretty familiar with anti-cleave. Here, this did not work. I forgot why. But here's cleave, for example. This is champion. I don't think this is a champion tier player. He's pretty quick. Typically, like, I go, like, this isn't my typical opener into anti-cleave. So this, I pivoted, basically, to fight cleave. Because he banned Rimuru. Typically, people ban Belian if they go anti-cleave, because Belian's really good in the anti-cleave, right? So I just picked her here instead of her being banned. I could swap these 2 units out, realistically. Ross is a very popular cleaver. He cleaves a lot. He's very good. But you see how my draft is laid out here? Typically, cleavers ban Belian, and they leave this open, so I immediately take it if I'm first pick regardless. It's a speed contest. And like I said earlier, with Flan being so damn slow, she's a forced ban. Now let's take a look at this from another perspective, right? In this same situation, if Peira was in the game, I'd slam her right here. I think she's just a better pick than a second she is a second mitigation unit, right? I draft 2 mitigations in my anti-cleave. Like, pretty much every time. That wasn't cleave. That one, this was cleave. I draft 2 mitigations. Here I didn't either, because I wasn't sure if he was cleaving or not. But this is what my anti-cleave typically looks like. I run a Bastion Crow because people don't expect it. Looking into that, like instead of running Bastion Crow, I just throw Peira here. I think Peira would be more valuable, just because it's another speed contester. Literally in this example down here against Ross, like he had to ban this one because, you know, like I said, Flan space speed is dog shit. So she just gets outsped here. There's no imprints. Okay, there's not many people that have a Flan that's over like 295. That's very hard to do. I've seen a couple at 300, but not many. And then, like I just showed you my Peira, she's going to be 304 without touching my Rand's gear. So with that being said, I just think she's going to be better in anti-cleave. If you're struggling with cleave, you might just want to grab her and throw your fastest gear on her. And you just slam her into people that are cleaving. She transitions pretty well into a standard draft too. So if they pivot, you can use her in a standard draft pretty well, I think. Unbuffable is very strong. Granted, they'll probably have a cleanser, they cleanse it, etc. But she does give your team an attack buff. Like I mentioned in my other video, there's not many units that can act as mitigation that provide attack buff to your team. The only 2 that were brought up were Rose and Charles. I remember Charles. I didn't remember Rose. Rose sucks. Her base speed's terrible. The rest of her kit outside of her S3 is shit. She doesn't really offer much. Maybe if she was faster, she'd be a pretty damn good unit, but she's not, right? Peira official, like, kind of power creeps Rose, even though Rose isn't around. So, yeah, that's just my thoughts on her. In case anybody was curious, I'm popping off right now. Yeah? I'd probably do some more RTA videos soon. I'm not sure. I have a very specific playstyle, and I'm not exactly a tiny YouTuber. And, you know, there's not many people up here. Granted, I know a lot of these people probably do not watch me on YouTube. I know some of them do, though. And honestly, I don't want anyone to have even a slight advantage to me if I'm actually going to try and end Legend this season, right? Amiru's coming out, and then I'm going full sweaty. Because I think she's a unit that really enforces how I play. I hate the unit, but I think I'm going to be able to climb up into top 20 using her. I don't see why not. And then as long as I consistently and hold it, I think I just stay in Legend with not much effort, right? That's the goal. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. I'll probably do one of these for ML Sarmia as well. All right, peace.